A test of a good teacher is not how many questions he can ask his pupils that they will answer readily, but how many questions he inspires them to ask him which he finds it hard to answer. This quote was taken from Alice Wellington Rollins. Hello, my name is Megan Bourdeau, and the topic of this TED Talk is on my Genius Hour process of researching, practicing, and knitting a scarf during a 6-week time frame. As a young child, I would receive homemade gifts for my birthday and other special occasions that were handmade by my family members. I remember being in awe as to how someone could use their hands to create such heartfelt and simple gifts that could last for quite some time. Not too long ago, I was driving down a street in St. Catharines when I noticed a tree filled with knitted scarves, hats, and mittens. A sign was displayed beside this tree stating, "I am not lost. If you're stuck out in this cold weather, take an item to keep warm." After this sign reading, I thought to myself, what a great idea! I can learn how to do that. I want to do that. This gesture proves that we can provide a sense of warmth for others in our own community. Just as my family members had created heartfelt gifts for me, I would like to do the same for others. This is where my spark came for my Genius Hour project. I began my Genius Hour project by researching different supplies that would be needed to knit a scarf. I visited several craft stores to find yarn, needles, and any other supplies that I would require for my project. At first, I tried several locations until I got a great idea. I decided to purchase my knitting needs at a local thrift store, supporting and giving back to my own community. I then began to research different patterns and videos online to get started on my scarf design. I found it difficult to position my hands and develop the right hand-eye coordination to knit my scarf. It took several tries, but eventually I was in the right direction. As a future educator, this is also something to keep in mind while introducing products or projects that require fine motor skills. You must be patient with your students and understand what you can do to meet their needs. From here, I began creating my scarf. I started knitting the first row of my scarf with uncertainty of how tight I should be pulling my yarn. However, I used my own discretion and continued on my learning process. Along the way, I encountered several difficulties with losing track of how many stitches I should have in each row, as well as accidentally pulling the yarn through the stitch and having to restart. However, with persistence, I found myself continuing on with my project. Near the middle of my project, I also found difficulty with the amount of yarn that I had left to complete my scarf. I moved past this hardship by researching alternatives to my original plan. In speaking with a friend, she suggested creating an infinity scarf, which would mean instead of having two ends, I would join them together to create a loop. This was an awesome idea. I continued knitting and came close to finishing when I realized I hadn't figured out how to end my scarf, or in other words, cast it off. I had to watch several videos to master this concept. Finally, I joined the two ends of my scarf together and created an infinity scarf. Success! As a future educator, I strongly believe in providing my students with new experiences and opportunities to grow as lifelong learners. When students are interested in a topic that they are learning, they are more likely to stay intrinsically motivated to further develop their understanding. A lifelong learner is not only something that I believe I myself am, but also something that I hope to promote with my students. Lifelong learning is the ongoing voluntary and self-motivated pursuit of knowledge for either personal or professional reasons. Therefore, it is not only enhances social inclusion, active citizenship, and personal development, but also self-sustainability, among other valuable traits. Overall, I really enjoyed this process in growing as a learner. I hope that in the future I am able to introduce a Genius Hour project in my own classroom and with my students. I want them to show me what they can do when they are given choice and independence. I hope that I can also teach some of my students how to knit and potentially start a new knitting club in my own teaching experience. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you are inspired to take chances and find new opportunities to grow as a lifelong learner.